Okay, so now let's go back to this. Two things I wanted to mention to you. Like my face, I had a little procedure. Hubbard came up with a thing called suppressive people. I'm now declared a suppressive person. I brought my suppressive person declare just to show you. This is the declare of me saying, my last name was Bazazian when I was married. Tory Bazazian of Los Angeles, California is hereby declared a suppressive person. And it goes on and on how bad I am, and her only terminal is the International Justice Chief via the Continental Justice Chief. Now, how did that come about? I'll tell you how that came about. When I left, actually, I don't want to get all into the leaving story, but Mark, who's in the back making a video, made a video of me trying to just talk to their people at one of their organizations saying, Scientology believes in communication. Stop just filming them and come talk to them. People were picketing, right? And they wouldn't. And finally, I just got mad and I started talking. Mark put it on the internet and they declared me a suppressive person the next day. I mean, it's like you have to march to their drum or nothing, or they'll declare you. So the fear tactics are always in it. Some of the other better things that you think are you've got nice people there. They are nice people, but they're only your friends as long as you're jumping through the hoops right. But you don't know that. And it's very hard to, have any of you tried to talk to Scientologists about skepticism or anything? And it's difficult, right? Have you found it difficult? It's very difficult because they have these traps built in. The academics who have studied cults say the two worst cults are the Moonies and Scientology. And why is that? Because they build in these traps early on so that none of you can get to them to go, wake up, go, you can go on the internet now and read everything I'm saying is on the internet. But they can't go on the internet. Scientology put in a Net Nanny on their computers when computers came out. This is a true story. And I was at I'm skipping ahead, but I'm just going to tell you about the Net Nanny. We were at a big event in 1999. I was in Scientology and they said, look, the computers are coming out, they're really big, we need all of you to get on the internet. So we have computers all around the room, we want you all to sit down, just type up your success stories, and you'll be on the internet. So we all sit down, we type up our little story, they tab on all their little links, which are all to their Scientology, front groups, right? But we don't know that. It's like Narcanon and Criminon and all the Way to Happiness, all these things that we know of, but most of us didn't know computers at the time in '99. And so then they hand you a disk and they say, put this on your computer. And you're like, why? And they say, well, people are going to want to talk to you. So now you'll be able to get in touch with them. I thought, well, that makes sense. So I put it on my computer. Now, I never even tried to go on the internet, but the truth is it puts this lock on anything that might connect to critical thinking about Scientology. Any of the things I'm talking about, any of the references on Scientology, any of the Xenu.net, which is a huge website, XenuTV.com, which is a huge thing on videos, there's tons of websites now with critical information about Scientology. But it locked it all out. So you could be a Scientologist typing in, and all that comes up is a piece of blue sky. So I always say it's like this Truman Show. How many people in here saw the Truman Show? Right. And it looks fabulous, right? And that's how it is. It's like, hi, come on in, we're so happy you're here, and whatever. That's how it works. You just have tons of people there. Now so SP is a suppressive person. PTS is a potential trouble source. That's what they said. So if you're sick, if you had this, if you have any problems at all, you are PTS. Now, I happen to have epilepsy. I haven't had a seizure in 20 years, but when I was in Scientology, I did, because they routed me out of their C organization, which was Hubbard's highest staff members. The guys that are in the uniforms? One of my friends calls them the stewardesses in their uniforms. How many have seen the uniforms around in LA? Right, most of you. Well, they wear Navy uniforms. And Hubbard had a bunch of trouble, which I'm going to tell you about, and then eventually moved out into the ocean because he was safe there, right? But I joined the Sea Org, and because I had epilepsy, I needed medication. And I said, look, my medication's out. I need to order my medication. They route me to some yo-ho who's not trained, not a medical anything, but he's a Sea Org member. And he says, well, you know what? We need to get you off your medication. And I want you to take 9,000 vitamins. This will handle it. So now I'm in the Church of Scientology having grand mal seizures. But of course, when I come out of it, people are going, well, you know what? Your postulates are wrong. Now, a postulate in Scientology means your decisions. So it always comes back to you. You're wrong, right? It's not that I have a physical condition. It's that I'm not strong enough or able enough to handle this, right? So you get trapped up in it. And I'm talking to my mom, luckily, thank God, and she's going, Tory, you're going to die from this. Because my memory is getting worse and worse as I'm having more seizures. And you know, she's like, Tory, you've got to take your medication. And I'm like, oh no, Dianetics is going to handle it, Mom, it really will. And she's like, no, it won't. It's a physical condition. You need to take your medication. And it gets worse and worse. And finally I go out on a date and I call her the next day and she goes, how was your date? And I said, what date? And she said, you know what, that's it. You know, I had knocked out my teeth in the shower. I had a seizure. And she said, this is it. You know, they are going to kill you. You have to go back on your medicine. And that was really the first big, you know, skeptical, critical thing for me, because I was on the bridge to total freedom. And all of a sudden I had to get a little off of it and go, okay, I am going to die if I keep on this program. So I'm not going to tell anybody, but I'm going to start taking my medication. And I did. And that was like, so for 30 years I fought that. I mean, fought it vigorously. And now none of it, you can go into any of their churches and they'll say I'm crazy, that that's not true. They always tell people to go to the doctors. They have signs all over saying if you have a medical condition, go to the doctor. But behind closed doors, they're always saying, did you handle epilepsy yet? Are you still taking that medication? How did this level work for it? Did it fix it? Now that's pretty scummy, isn't it? You know, it's like, it's really bad news. So I was labeled a PTS person, and they, of course, figured my mom was the suppressive, right? Because my mom was always sending me articles, probably from the Skeptic Society, saying, you know, here's about Scientology, and I just throw them away. You know, it's like, no, I don't want to read that. They call it N theta. It's interbulated theta, and theta is like spiritual. So it's like, no, don't read that, it's N theta. Don't look at that, it's N theta, right? So I was like shutting down all the time on that. Now, early on with Hubbard, he had some trouble in the early days. In 1950, he came out with Dianetics, Modern Science of Mental Health. I know some people who were in then, and they did what they called co-auditing, where it's like you would audit me, I audit you. Auditing is like counseling, right? It was basically talk therapy, but with a few little twists on it. And his biggest twist was that he said, you have a reactive mind and you have an analytical mind. The analytical mind is like a computer, it's just storing information. The reactive mind is filled with mental image pictures of pain and unconsciousness and losses. Now, how many people in here can say you don't have any pain, unconscious, or losses, right? I mean, all of us. So you read that and you go, wow. And Hubbard said you could erase your reactive mind. Now, again, this conversation I'm having with you, I never had with my husband of 27 years. So you might be going, I don't get it. You know, why would you fall for that? But you remember, keeping Scientology working, you can't talk about the tech to people. You can only read it and learn it. If you start discussing it, you're off to ethics again, right? Because it's either the tech works or you're going to ethics. Because it's like there's a thin line, Hubbard said, between ethics and tech. And it's like if someone's having a problem, they go to ethics. So